today. Welcome on board. To begin with, we have two items on the public forum. So the first is UN Youth, which is on the agenda, and the second is the Minor League, who put in a late request to speak today. So Bill and John, and I think someone else who I don't know from the Minor League will introduce us shortly. But to kick off, we have UN Youth, and I'd like to welcome to the table Bokyon, Jean-Juan, Beth, Emily and Catherine to introduce us about a youth forum they held recently and their thoughts that came out of that.
Hi, so we're just going to stand and talk because I think it's probably the easiest method. So my name's Bokyon. We were all participants in this Otago Youth Forum, which was an event held around 3 weeks ago, and it was organised by UN Youth for the Otago region. So the aim of the event was to produce a declaration or a document as such, which encompassed the views and opinions of youth regarding so-called important issues that affect us in the community, opinions and values that sometimes we feel aren't so represented, especially among our community leaders or business leaders as such. As written in the document, while youth may be the leaders of tomorrow, this does not exclude them from being active citizens today. And so this is sort of an idea we wanted to empower my fellow peers and the rest of youth in Otago by engaging them in this event and hopefully producing a document that sort of encompasses something special. So there were 4 main groups. First was on youth development, secondly on local government, third on arts and culture, and fourth on business and commerce. So each of us will run through sort of the general points that came out of each group and then go over some overriding points that sort of were presented in the document. Cool. So Emily, we'll start off with youth development.
Hi. So we kind of had 4 main issues that we thought were really important to deal with youth development today, because we recognise that in New Zealand we have quite a forward-thinking education system, and we think that this could be represented in a way that by listening to youth and reflecting on their views about how they want to be educated. So the first thing that we had thought was kind of an issue was transitions through different year levels from secondary to tertiary education, and also between levels NCEA 1, 2 and 3. We think that this is an issue because some people might be disincentivised with their education, or if they struggle with their school and they feel the need to drop out. And as you see in the declaration, we have some ideas about how to incentivise them and give them help in hand. We also believe that it's kind of disappointing that people aren't really educated from a young age about their rights and responsibilities. This includes knowing them and when they are being breached, what action to take. And we believe that people should be educated on this from a very young age because it would concern their safety. They might be in an abusive situation at home or in another location. We believe that they should have the strength and have the ability to identify this and make a change against that. So we believe that this should also be done in schools. Concerning civics education, you see that there's an extremely low voter turnout today, and we think one of the ways that we could fix this is by getting young people involved. So we think maybe by educating them in the later years of their secondary education about local government, national government, and also how elections work, might kind of give them a little bit more of an idea, so they don't start looking once they've turned 18. They've already had that foundation to support them, so then people get make more informed votes, which we think is incredibly important. We also think that one big issue is about gender and sexuality in schools, and this is quite overlooked, but we believe that especially in New Zealand, seeing as like legalised gay marriage, we're quite forward thinking. We really need to be supportive of people, for example, transgender students in schools who feel like they don't have places to go to the bathroom or they feel like they're being picked on. So we believe that it's more important in terms of sexual education to not just talk about sexual education, but also talk about gender bias, also about homosexual and transgender issues, sexuality and rights associated with this. And we think all of these would be really important for youth to know while they're making changes through their development.
On behalf of local government, we discussed local government autonomy and how central government can create regulations without providing resources to implement change. We thought this would mean that resources cannot be applied to specific areas' needs, e.g. not all cities will gain enormous benefit from prioritising earthquake-proofing in non-earthquake-prone areas. We supported advocacy against the closure of Invermay and continue sciences within the Otago Southland region. And to solve these issues of local government autonomy, we suggested just continued submissions to Parliament.
So on behalf of the Arts and Culture Group, the students and the youth found, first of all, that there was a lack of community involvement and excess of unused spaces around our cities and towns. Furthermore, this sort of leads to disengagement, lack of cultural appreciation, especially things like interaction and potentially harmful loitering. But along with this point, we'd like to think that it's great to see the push, especially the street art that's happening currently in Dunedin, and obviously it's the Arts Festival, so we think initiatives like these are great to see in terms of arts and culture in our communities. Secondly, we believe that many council assets like parks or the libraries are not currently attractive enough, especially for youth. This is in terms of modernisation and integrating technology into these buildings and areas. We think that making these areas more accessible and more attractive to the people as well as youth is quite an important thing to build the community feel and incorporate more arts and culture into our societies.
On behalf of the Business and Commerce Group, we mainly focus on the local economy around the Dunedin and the Greater Otago region. So this was basically in regards to startup businesses and entrepreneurship. In saying that with entrepreneurship, we the youth of Otago wanted to see greater support for entrepreneurs heading into certain specialist industries and some areas especially such for example the accommodation industry, which you will see in your declaration, and just for example in regards to the accommodation industry, just overseeing the construction of high quality hotels and sympathetic in design to the surrounding environment in order to support tourism. So basically we wanted to see the local economy grow, and the other way we wanted to see this was through more support for startup businesses as well as entrepreneurs, allowing them to, and we wanted them to gain a foothold in our local economy so they can grow and become stable businesses and just become a part of our local community as well. And so in this we also wanted to see increased interactions between them and our local community too. So in our declaration you'll see that we have suggested such as networking events or competition or award ceremonies for entrepreneurs and just community events and festivals that will allow our local community to interact with our local entrepreneurs and startup businesses more. And so one final thing you'll see in our declaration is that we would like to see the council support the funding for a council-owned building such as the Auckland City Ice House that would have low rent for entrepreneurs, which would then allow these entrepreneurs to have allow these entrepreneurs to concentrate on their business more, and increase their chances for gaining a solid start to their businesses, and that would be
So now, Emily and Jahun are going to talk about 3 overriding points that were reflected through all 4 groups actually. First of all was youth engagement. Secondly, the issue of climate change and public transportation cycleways regarding that. And lastly, youth unemployment and scholarships, internships.
So in terms of youth youth engagement, we recognise that youth are going to be the leaders of tomorrow, but we don't necessarily want only the leaders of tomorrow to be educated about how the world works. We also want every single person beyond the initial education, compulsory education that they receive at high school, to be quite well informed about how the community works around them. So we believe that there's a lack of awareness about youth development programs. So this includes jobs, events and opportunities, and we suggested in our declaration a few ideas to make sure that youth are well informed about what they could be doing in their spare time. We also believe that it's really important to get kids doing more charity work so they can get a better understanding of the interaction between socioeconomic groups in today's society. We think it's important that people, as they age, understand about what to be done to make sure that equality is prevalent in society as well as parity. And we think that we should be encouraging these kids in school and out of school to take on the community work. We also believe that it's really difficult for youth who do show an interest in government, civics, that sort of thing, to participate in national events. Like we have our UN Youth Forum here in Dunedin, but if you want to go a step further and participate in, for example, UNICEF Youth Congress or Aotearoa New Zealand, you can't necessarily do that because they're quite expensive and they're in the North Island, so travel costs added to that as well. Kind of diminishes the opportunities for kids in the South Island, and we have a few ideas about how to get them more engaged in national events in our declaration. We also believe that there's a lack of, there's minimal youth engagement in local government. So we have like us here talking about what changes we'd like to make, but we believe that something more continuous, something more steady would be really good to get kids more, or youth more engaged. So we really endorse the DCC's Youth Participation Education Advisory Group and the establishment of youth councils. And we believe there's a lack of connection between high schools, which is, we believe is important because it allows people to communicate and understand what different schools, different social diversity areas have to offer. And we think that we want to create connections and communication within these groups, and we have some ideas for that as well in our declaration.
Throughout our groups, we recognise the importance of climate change and the people of Dunedin in participating to change this before it's too late. The ideas that we brought forward throughout the groups were public transport and cycling, and how we can make those better for people to not be using cars as much and to be able to reduce carbon emissions and create change. Under public transport, we suggested the idea of having a central bus hub so that people, namely tourists, will be able to have better use of our bus system, and because at the moment our bus system is a little bit confusing for people, and they, unless they live in Dunedin, often don't quite know where to catch buses. We also had the idea of things like real-time app reporting in the future, for if so people can have more reliability in like catching the bus and actually be able to rely on this public transport. We also had the idea of increasing cycling through increased sort of pedestrian crossings and that sort of thing, but also increasing cycle lanes like we have been, but even more so. And because we recognise the issue that cycling is currently unsafe, and that is the reason why cyclists will have bad attitudes thrust upon them, because there is not good enough measures put in place at the moment for them to be able to conduct cycling in a way that will not become annoying for car drivers. And we think that with the increasement of encouraging cycling, encouraging this through having solutions such as traffic light sensory pads for cyclists, will mean that cyclists will be better encouraged to actually go out and cycle, and also just a better atmosphere.
Throughout the groups at the Otago Youth Forum, another common theme that came up was the idea of youth unemployment and like the idea of including such youth internships and scholarships. You'll see this particularly in our youth development section of the declaration, as well as some other sections. And just with youth unemployment, we recognise that paid employment for youth is a very valuable experience, and it gives them life skills that they'll need, for the future when working in other jobs, and maybe perhaps in their future careers too. And we also recognise that a lot of resources exists for older people in their careers. certain examples are like staff.co.nz and stuff like that. But however, we feel that there isn't any like such resources targeted for youth, such as like websites and like advertisements and all that. So we, the Youth of Otago, would support the creation of like an employment resource for young people, featuring employment opportunities and information on how to get into employment and like what you need to do and like who to contact, etc. It'll be something similar to student job search, which is another well-known example, except it'll be more targeted towards high school students and those leaving high school in the near future. Also, another point that we raised was the idea of youth involvement in developing businesses. We felt as if this was very important for the Otago region, seeing as the overriding point of this entire equation is that youth is somewhat going to be the future of, that youth is somewhat going to be part of our future, but we'd like to see them developed and like having the skills and knowledge to make informed decisions and whatnot. So we see that youth development is important in developing business in the regions. So therefore, we, the Youth of Otago, would encourage experts from a variety of fields, like from sciences to whatnot, to engage with high school and university students, like just come along, just talk about what they do and like why high school students and uni students should like come along and just like have like similar sort of career to them. And we believe that businesses and like organisations should support students in their respective fields through scholarships and promoting placements at a company post-graduation, which gives, through this, students will have a higher chance of gaining employment after study, and this will increase the youth voice in business, which we view as extremely important as the Youth of Otago.
Cool. So I personally believe that it's this document that you've got in front of you is quite important. I mean, it's something special to be able to encompass our views and our opinions into one, on a wide range of topics into one document, something that can be easily presented and is accessible to our community leaders and decision makers. So I'd hope and challenge everyone here to actually read through the whole thing, take into consideration what we've put forward to you, and continue to support youth engagement in Otago. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So we're open to questions.
Any questions? David?
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation and the professionalism of your document. A lot of the things, people will have their own views of what you say. I don't have a great deal of disagreement with anything you've presented. But a lot of the things you're talking about are things that also relate more directly to where you are in the education system, say, when you're talking about curricular issues. Have you made this or a similar presentation to your own boards of trustees? And if so, if not, why not? If so, what was their response and what are they doing about their specific school-related issues?
So we have not presented this document to our board, respective board of trustees. That's actually quite a good idea. It's something we unfortunately didn't consider, but this document has only currently been presented to this council and our local member of parliament, Dr. David Clark. So I think it's a great suggestion, and we'll definitely look to do it.
So you are going to make such a presentation to your individual boards?
Personally, I think it's a very good move to make, and something I personally will uphold in my own school.
Thank you.
Councillor Hawkins.
Thank you for coming and presenting to us. And this is a formidable output from a single day's intellectual engagement, so thank you for that. Is there any ambition on your part to monitor this and to hold the various institutions to it, whether they be your boards of trustees or us or select committees or otherwise?
Well, once again, from a personal point of view, I participated in the National Youth declaration, which is a similar event except on a national scale. And we presented the document to the Honourable Nikki Kay, who's obviously the Minister for Youth Development. She was great in that she took the document and reacted and replied to every single point we made in the document. So, like I said before, it'd be great to challenge you all to seriously consider our policy statements that we've made and maybe react or give an opinion on what the council as a body would like to do on what we've presented to you.
And I would ask you to seriously consider pushing for it to make sure that it happens.
Thanks.
Councillor Calvert.
I haven't, of course, had a chance to read it, and thank you very much for the presentation you've made, and we'll have a look at it thoroughly. My question is, I'm not personally terribly worried about the leaders of tomorrow because they always happen, and I think we're seeing in front of us some of them already. What concerns me is the followers of tomorrow. Have you been thinking about the people who aren't going to be the leaders of tomorrow but need to understand better civic things so as they can be good followers, because that's what most of them will end up being. The leaders just will happen one way or the other, but to be a good civic person when you're not going to be a leader is really important for the leaders.
So this is a point we touched on quite a bit in our development idea, and we think that it's particularly important that people are educated more broadly about how they interact with society, not just things like science and maths and arts and that sort of those sorts of topics. So we believe that by getting a compulsory education into school levels, maybe not every single person will listen, but the average person will, and we think that if it becomes more of a social norm to understand about those sorts of things, even the kids that don't listen in class will kind of pick up on it a little bit. So we think, so rather than just, taking a few people and letting them talk about things in front of a council, getting everybody to work together to create a collective idea, and that sort of idea of cohesion and everyone working together to share their ideas is what's quite important to us.
Councillor Wiley.
Thank you. I really enjoyed that presentation. For 2015, are there other students like yourselves coming through the school that will take the mantle next year?
Like the previous councillor pointed out, leaders of tomorrow will continue to nationally happen, and I believe that there are students who, we are actually all different ages at the moment. I'm in my last year of tertiary education, while Emily and June, tertiary secondary education. Yeah. Emily and June are year 12, and Beth is year 11, so there are definitely more and more students in the Otago region who are coming up, and it'd be great to see the council recognise these students and support them as they come through their last years of secondary school. Is
there a structure within the school that's growing in that sense of local, focusing on these type of issues?
Personally, in Otago Girls High School, I don't see that kind of structure being a main priority. However, organisations like You and Youth Otago and many other charity-based organisations such as P3 Foundation, Save the Children's have projects and campaigns put in place to support and encourage the youth of tomorrow or today to become more aware and be empowered in sort of these kind of areas and issues.
Okay. One sort of thing with that is that last year for the AG of You and Youth there were about 10 people, and that's almost doubled or slightly more since this year. And this is the first year that we've had the You and Youth Forum, so we believe that it's going to continue over years and gain popularity. I've only been a member of You and Youth for 2 weeks now, so we think that there's a lot of people who are keen to get involved.
No, awesome. And finally, later in this meeting, we're going to be talking about the significance engagement policy that's going out for consultation. And it'll be great for you guys to take that back to your schools and get the other leaders at the schools to review the document and follow through on that as well.
Further questions? If not, just one from me. Are you guys, is it your intention to remain together as a group, or once you leave, you will leave school, you will leave You and Youth Otago, is that right? Or how does the organisation work in that?
Yeah, so the four of us have just come to represent the 30 or so youth that were there on the day. But personally, I am currently a member of the You and Youth Otago Council for this year and next year. Actually, the Otago Region President for UN Youth Otago is sitting over there, Catherine O'Donnell-Jacobus, so keep her in mind. But no, I'm on the council next year and I'll definitely continue to engage myself in these kind of issues and campaigns.
And so in terms of this document, I imagine that if you decided to run a forum again next year, this might be refreshed with the perspectives of a new group of young people coming through, or?
Yes, of course. I mean, the idea is that maybe in a year's time things might have completely changed. Who knows where we might be with climate change, or the council might have been great and put some more initiatives for cycleways in place, and so that might not be such a concerning issue anymore.
Yeah, great. Okay. So Catherine would be the point of contact for any response that we were able to give to this document, or any further engagement on particular projects in response to this document.
Yep, definitely.
Thank you all very much for, and Catherine, for taking the time to come in and be the representatives of those 30 young people that dedicated their weekend to that conversation. And we will, I'm sure, all read it and take it on board. I think the positive thing is, of the 3 things that you pulled out at the end, I think we're doing work on all of them and commencing work in a very targeted way in 2 of them. So I think there's much more work to be done in those areas, and potentially a lot more interaction that could be had with you and Youth Otago. So we'll get back to you on that. Thank you. So the second group that we have presenting today are the Aramoana League, and I'd invite Bill and John to come up to the table. Thank you, Bill and John, for your patience.
Firstly, thanks very much for giving us time to speak. And I'm Bill Brown, President of the Aramoana League. And the subject today is the Aramoana, the Spit Wharf. Firstly, I'd like to make one small comment or amendment on Lisa Wheeler's report, as she refers to it as the former Pilot's Wharf. It's still there, it's still remaining, and it was used recreationally right up until the engineer's report and the closed signs went up on it. The project is estimated at cost of $100,000, and that's verbally. There are prices going around comparing it with the Portobello jetty, which was a much grander and complex project. So we do believe we've got good access to tradesmen and companies in favour of the project. So we do believe that we can get this job done very closely to that figure, which won't really have any problem with City Council, because it's the cost of it won't be City's problem. The City Council spent a lot of money and time on proposed cycleways, and they've already started them, and fine projects. There are 2 down both sides of the harbour. They've even printed this form here that recommends a good ride from Dunedin to Aramoana or Dunedin to Portobello, and the thing that whole project needs is a link between the 2 of them. It's there, it just needs to be maintained, upgraded and maintained. The Salmon Trust at the moment are working on making Dunedin Salmon City with the support of the Dunedin City Council. At the moment, Port Otago through health and safety and security, have closed a lot of public access to areas on wharfage to fish. So this is another good reason for the Aramoana Wharf to remain for recreational use. And lastly, really, I think any progressive councillor with foresight will see that looking at this project that's in front of you, will be able to have a look at it and see that demolition isn't really an option. Down the track, if this wharf doesn't get retained, I would say in 15 years' time, we're going to have a group of councillors saying what we need is a link between Portobello and Aramoana. So, thank you.
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to add, I'm John Davis, Secretary of the League. We've got a recommendation on the report that the staff continue to work with the League to complete their proposal and obtain an archaeological assessment and heritage impact assessment if needed. We'd definitely work along with Council on that line, but I'd like to see from this, come out of this meeting today, a bit of encouragement from the Council that we do go forward. It's been a long battle. I've come to 4 annual plan hearings. I've written letters to other organisations prior to hitting on the Council. I'd like to see it done in my lifetime, but honestly, the way it's going,
How old are you?
I'm feeling a lot older than I should be. Yeah, I won't tell you. You want to add anything, Warren? Or, any questions?
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Thompson.
One of the, I'll ask this question of staff later on, but I'll ask it of you as well. One of the difficulties I had in reading the report was just trying to understand the extent to which your proposal is indeed a retention of the existing facility and the extent to which it's new facility, because it's difficult to understand that for me anyway from the report. You're looking at moving from that 22 metres down to 10, and I'm not sure whether you're suggesting that in doing that you're in a better position to reuse parts of the existing structure because you can get rid of 12 metres that's shagged, so to speak, or whatever. Can you clarify just exactly what?
Well, we felt 10 metres would be sufficient for the type of vessels that we're going to use it, and there'd be enough space for fish truck and the like. So yes, and it's cheaper, 10 metres versus 22 metres.
But
yeah, sorry.
No, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just trying to understand the. Bill, you said that. I'm sorry. I'm unclear as to what extent it's a 10 metre complete new build, as opposed to a 10 metre restoration of what's there.
Well, practically trying to use the existing piles. There might be other piles that are good enough to use. When it comes to bringing in plant to drive new piles, it is likely that it's easier to remove the structure that's there, even though if there were good piles, we'll use them. We'll certainly be using some of the beams if they're good enough. And of course, out of 22 metres, we should get some stuff, some good quality beams. The piles might be shot, but
so
there'll be goodies out of what's left.
So it's a reuse of existing materials where you can, rather than a restoration.
Yes. If I can leave one pile in, it's a restoration.
Yeah, right. Even if it's not actually attached to anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So Pete.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just a further question on that, on the material. You have in mind this 10 metre jetty that would be wooden, like the
wooden
ones? Yeah. Fine. And the depth of water there at low tide, you probably had a long association with that.
Yeah, it does vary. It changes a lot. When we got quite active in this was when Portobello started their, what they call it, next generation. second generation, whatever generation. But they were going to be doing a wee bit of deepening near the jetty. And we made submissions at the time that no matter what, if you start digging beside it, we want the jetty to withstand it. So yes, it does change and it does shoal a wee bit. We think that might change. We're going to be doing some work on the groin, adjacent groin. So we're hoping that that'll scare it out again. But I know you've had that problem at Portobello, that there's not enough water as well. At the moment, the fishing boat can tie up there most tides. So.
Yes, okay. And in terms of road access, you're happy that there is no road?
No road access.
Through there?
There never was, never intended. Stops at hardwood houses, and I think in the report there is moves afoot to try to get that further, but there's car access to the old pilot houses.
Thank you.
Councillor Wilkins.
Thank you. Just following on from Councillor Thompson's question, but specifically around existing use rights and the resource consent, is that threshold, you said, as long as there's one original hire that qualifies as a restoration, is that the threshold for you to not have to go through the consent process? Because
I've forgotten the words that the regional council use under the coastal plan. I think it's quoted in there somewhere.
Oh, so as long as it's within the original footprint.
Within the footprint. And it's just the ease of construction. If you try to get like if we're using the Port Target plant, it's often easier to pull your piles out and start from scratch, unless there's a couple of good ones that you can start with and then build from there. And as long as it's within the same footprint, it's just maintenance, no resource concern.
And you are comfortable to fund the heritage impact assessment if it's necessary?
No, it's not our wolf. We'll talk about that with the staff. I'm surprised at that one. That was a wee one that snuck up on us.
Okay.
I don't really want to spend $5,000 and not have a wolf.
Councillor Wood.
Yeah, you see, my question was partly answered by Councillor Pete's question. I was going to ask, how close can you get with road access? But there's obviously none. So the question is there access that you can walk through or cycle track, or how would you get to
the beach access mainly, but I don't know if it came up on any of the documents. We've just got a new one now, another one here. Through the dunes itself, there used to be what's called the Pilots Track, and it hasn't been used of late. There was a set line through the dunes, but the majority of access would be like this today. You just walk the beach, or ride the beach if someone decides to cycle around.
cycling on beaches very much, but
no, it's very nice.
John, sorry, just one question from me, and that is just in relation to boats that would be using the wharf. If they won't be launching off there because the truck or the cars won't be going down there, where's the closest launch point?
It'll be Kerry's Bay for smaller craft and anything on the other side. I suppose there's launching at Wells Rock.
Right, yeah, okay.
And, that's Wells Rock's another DCC facility. You'd like to keep that one going. We're the other side of the harbour, waving the flag saying, I'd hate to think you're going to knock down Glenfelloc as well, that type of thing.
So the locals in Arumana that currently launch, they launch at Kerry's Bay?
No, we might go off the beach.
Oh, okay. And that would still be an option for...
Oh, yes, but we don't necessarily need the wharf. We're just going fishing from the beach.
Yeah, oh, I see. Right, okay.
It's really, we're the local community that are pushing it. It's really for the greater city and any boat user, whatever shape, marine casualty type pickup, anything. It's the last jetty for the open sea. We think it's quite vital.
Any further questions? If not, thank you very much for coming in once again to speak to us on this matter. I know it's been a long journey for you.
See you next evening, plan.
And you're welcome to stick around and listen to us consider the report or hear through the grapevine how we.
No, thank you.
Thank you.